Now that we've learned a little bit about SQL, we can actually get into using that in BigQuery. So BigQuery is part of Google Cloud, and we're gonna work a lot with Google Cloud technologies. It's basically a data warehouse. If you want the very short version of what BigQuery is, it's a data warehouse. But it's a little bit more than that. It's fully managed, which basically means you don't have to worry about the hardware or how anything's going to be processed in BigQuery. It's all done sort of in the cloud, and that allows us to not really have to think too hard about the resources behind things. It's going to allow us to execute SQL queries and query a lot of data without having to worry about infrastructure, and it's going to allow us to learn a lot about things very quickly. So we're going to take a look at some examples here in just a moment, but just kind of look at BigQuery as a data warehouse that fortunately has a lot of public data sets. So BigQuery is going to allow us to explore data without having to go out and find things, which is really nice. So if we're trying to learn how to work with some of this data, BigQuery is going to let us jump right into some data, lots of data that's readily available. So you can access BigQuery at console.cloud.google.com/BigQuery, and here you can kind of see the user interface, and we'll do a quick demo of how we can get around BigQuery and maybe look at some queries in just a moment. So there's an Explorer in BigQuery. You can use this to kind of look at the data sources that you have available. The BigQuery public data is the one we're going to start with, but as you assemble your own data sources or as you start working with your own data, you'll find these show up in the Explorer, which is nice because then you can kind of point and click, and we can get a couple of capabilities right from the user interface here that we'll explore. We're going to take a look at the Austin bike share data. So this is a data set full of bike share trips that occurred in Austin over, a course of probably close to a decade now. This data is available, and you can use it to understand details about the stations and about users that have taken trips. Obviously, none of the user data is available here, but you can kind of see how users have used the system. And this allows us to start understanding a little bit more about that data. Like where are users going, where are popular destinations, how long does it take them to get from place to place, and we can get all of that right here in the interface without having to get too crazy with SQL queries. We also have, in addition to the stations, we have the trips. So this will tell us, information about like the ID of the trip, what type of user we had, the bike itself, if that matters. Maybe we could actually use this to build a model that would predict whether or not a bike has a problem. That's actually a pretty interesting model if you think about it. If you knew the average time of a trip and you knew how long a particular bike was taking, maybe a bike is well out of what you would expect to be the range, or maybe there are certain routes that are causing bikes problems. So I think that there's a really simple way to look at this, which is bikes could have problems based on particular things with that bike. So you could look to see if a bike is out of a particular expectation. Don't really need a machine learning model for that, but you could also get much more involved. Like if a bike is going over a certain route, or if it has a certain number of trips, or like when are bikes going to need service? That's an interesting question that could be much more multidimensional than just simply looking to see if a bike is sort of out of the expected time that you would see on a normal trip. So I think you can kind of think about this is a good time to think about like what might be a useful just data analysis problem and what might be an interesting machine learning problem. So we're going to get into queries. Fortunately, the BigQuery user interface not only allows you to explore the tables and explore the columns that you have, but it also gives you the capability to write your queries right into the tool. So without having to kind of look at slides on this, let's just jump right into the tool. It's probably going to be a little bit more interesting to navigate if we see a demo of the tool itself.